On today's show, why the Phoenix Suns might just be better off shipping Mark Williams elsewhere, and Dillon Brooks, as he becomes extension eligible, it must be a priority for the Phoenix Suns to make him a Sun for life. It's all that and much more in this edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I am your host, Benjamin Garcia. Wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening or watching, viewing Locked On Phoenix Suns, appreciate you making myself and this show a part of your day on this Sunday night, Monday morning edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns. We got a lot of things to get into. I don't want to waste any time. Dillon Brooks is extension eligible the day after the NBA Finals. Why the Phoenix Suns got to make this guy a priority, and a quick refresher on just how important he was to the Phoenix Suns this season, plus Zion Williamson to the Phoenix Suns. That's a new name that's floated out there, and it's much more intriguing, but is it the best route the Suns should be going, and what could a potential trade look like for Zion Williamson? But first, I want to start off with Mark Williams, who is the elephant in the room, and probably between him and the mid-level exception, I'm not really sure which one of those things is the bigger domino to drop this offseason. I guess it's depending on what the Phoenix Suns get with that mid-level exception. If they do bring in a guy like Dean Wade, who, again, would be perfect for the Phoenix Suns, maybe that's a bigger move than what they decide to do with Mark Williams, but they've got a decision to make on Mark Williams. He obviously is a free agent this offseason. Now they've got his bird rights, and so that they can give Mark Williams whatever he may desire. However, the thing with Mark Williams is a little bit more interesting, a little bit more nuanced than that. First off, what is Mark Williams' market in the NBA? If he played more games, it feels like his market would be much more wider than it is right now. Mark last year, for just a refresher, had a career high in games played and in games started. Played 60 games last year, started in 55 games, played 23, roughly 24 minutes a night. I'm calling it a career high because the last time he shot 64% from the field, he only played 19 games. He had a career high from the field goal percentage mark last year at 64%, shot 77% from the free throw line, and averaged 11 points a game on 8 rebounds and about 1 block shot a game. If you guys remember correctly, I was all over the Mark Williams bandwagon from the beginning. Whenever they traded for him, I said I would do it again. I thought it was a fine trade, and I still think that trade now is still a fairly good trade, even a year ago when the Suns gave up 2 first-round picks for him. Now, to be fair, the Suns gave up a first-round pick for, was it this year's draft or last year's draft? Regardless, it doesn't really matter. But they gave up a first-round pick in last year's draft and then another first-round pick, but it didn't matter because both picks were going to be late first-round picks. They basically swapped out last year's first-round pick for Mark Williams. At the end of the day, you're either getting Mark Williams or a different 24-year-old player coming out of college. That's what people don't remember with the Mark Williams deal, is Mark is still incredibly young. He is 24 years old, and at the time the Suns traded for him, he was 23 years old. So you're either taking a flyer on an 18, 19-year-old in college who obviously didn't play super well, so they're not coming out being one and dones and finishing with a top 15 pick in the NBA draft, or you're selecting an older player who's probably already reached their ceiling, but can potentially help you for years to come. That's like a 22, 21-year-old player. The Suns went a different route, took a 23-year-old center out of Charlotte who played very well when he played. But the biggest question mark with Mark Williams is he was going to get paid, or he had the potential to get paid this offseason. Now let's look at more statistics with Mark Williams, because it's not just fair to say 64% from the field, 11 points a game. What do the advanced metrics say on Mark Williams? Well, per synergy, in all possessions last year, so there was 1,100 possessions with Mark Williams on the floor. He had 1,300 points. He averaged 1.148 points per possession. That was in the 89th percentile. That was good enough for an excellent rating from Synergy. 60% from the field and a 60% effective field goal percentage from the field. His true shooting percentage was 64%, low turnover percentage at 10%, and was 60% from 2-point field goals, and was just great all over the blocks. I could go down it and say the overall half court he was excellent, in the transition he was excellent. I could go through all these things. But in all of the possessions, because all of them are so great, he had an excellent rating and an 89 and was in the 89th percentile for points per possession. So this is kind of the age-old question with Mark Williams, which, by the way, I meant to mention this as well. He had a defensive rating of 110. That is as solid as it comes, which is a step up from where Mark Williams had been in years past in terms of as a defender. I don't want to make it seem like there was something insanely. I don't make it seem like it's something like an insane jump from years prior, but in his second season, where again, he only played 19 games, he had 115 defensive rating. And then the year after that, where he played 44 games, he had 111 defensive rating. Now, those defensive ratings can be skewed. This year he had 110. So yes, he improved on that, but he played more games. Reminder, he only played 44 games the year prior, and he only played 19 games the year after that. It's really hard to get a grasp on his statistical averages in terms of where they jump or where they fell down, because he just hasn't played a lot. But when he played this year, he was a rock solid defender. All those things to say with Mark Williams, that when he was on the floor, he was very effective. Now, there was stretches where later on in the season, when he was playing, where he wasn't super effective. And then it turned out through that like 2-week stretch where he wasn't effective, that foot injury came out. And then he was out for virtually the rest of the season, came back very briefly, didn't play in the playoffs at all. With all that to be said, when Mark Williams is playing, he's a very good player. And he's an above average center in the NBA. It is very fair to say that Mark Williams is a top 10 center in the NBA when he's playing. The problem is the guy's just never available when it really matters. Yes, did he play more games than ever this year? Yeah, 60 games. That is still 22 games missed this season, and he obviously wouldn't qualify. He wouldn't get any already. But if he was in consideration for any of the NBA awards, he wouldn't reach any of them because he didn't reach the 65-game mark. The Mark Williams thing is so interesting, and I don't mean to sit on a fence. I don't really know where I land with it. Because when he's on the floor, the numbers say he was pretty good. The problem is he's just not really on the floor enough. And when the Suns needed him at the end of the season, not only was he bad for that 2-3 week stretch before he got injured or before he went out with an injury, he wasn't available for the Suns in the playoffs or for that stretch run. And that's when I need him. I guess I do care, but I care much less about Mark Williams' availability in January. The whole idea of Mark Williams getting injured and sitting out or resting him, the load management that the Suns were doing with him when it was 2 games on, 1 game off, or he didn't play back-to-backs or whatever. The whole premise of that was supposed to be, well, he's going to miss 25 games in a year, but he's going to be ready when you need him the most in the playoffs. He wasn't there for that. So the Suns have a couple of different options they can go down with Mark Williams. They can, A, pay him and keep him around. There is a fine argument for that, especially if the contract is more team friendly, because then it makes it easier to trade if you do want to get off of him. They can B, which is the worst option, let him walk for nothing. Can't do that. You gave up, even if they weren't premium assets for him. You can't just let the guy walk for nothing. Or they can C, sign and trade him. The problem with C is, I just don't know what his market is. Similar to the Jalen Green thing. When I say, yeah, I want the Suns to trade Jalen Green. But the problem with that is I don't want to just trade Jalen Green for another team's bad contract. Then I've just got Jalen Green, but another guy that's not named Jalen Green with the same contract. I don't want to do that. If Jalen Green has value and I can get something that can help the team, yeah, I would trade Jalen Green. The same thing kind of goes for Mark Williams to a lesser extent, because when Mark Williams is on the floor, he was really great for the Suns. That's, again, that's not my opinion. That's what all the numbers say. I'd be interested to hear all your guys' thoughts on this in the comment section. But there's also the wild card in all this of they've got those 3 different routes that they could go. Sign him, let him walk for nothing, sign and trade him. There's the Khaman Maluach factor. And here's where all this becomes interesting. I think people are kind of asking the wrong question when it comes to Mark Williams. For me, it's not, should they let go of him? For me, it's not, should they move on from Mark Williams? It's, do the Suns believe in Khaman Maluach enough to move on from Mark Williams? Here's my belief. If the Suns sign Mark Williams around or keep him around in whatever facet or in whatever avenue they want to go, if the Suns keep Mark Williams around, it makes me think to myself, do they really believe in Khaman Maluach? If the Suns are aggressive in shopping Mark Williams, or potentially, God forbid, let him go for nothing in the free agency market, it tells me how they feel about Khaman Maluach. Like, oh, this guy's ready to go today. We felt pretty confident letting him go late in the season last year, but we wanted to let him sit the bench, learn the NBA lifestyle, get another year of basketball under his belt. Remember, he hadn't played basketball very long. But if they sign him, if they sign Mark Williams, and he's the Suns' starting center next year, and you would have to believe he would be, it does kind of tell me what they think of Khaman Maluach, which is not a super favorable thought. And so, if they keep Mark Williams around, what does that mean for Khaman Maluach? Are the Suns conceding he's a backup big and they probably overdrafted him? Or are they conceding he's not ready yet and they kind of need Mark Williams around? Or am I wrong in thinking they want to keep Mark Williams around and move Khaman Maluach to the side? Because at the end of the day, they could just start both guys. Or Khaman Maluach is going to be the center and Mark Williams to the bench. That's the most interesting wrinkle to all this. It's not the contract. It's not trading Mark. It's what does moving or keeping Mark mean for Khaman Maluach? Because I think it spells a not so great thought about Khaman Maluach if they don't feel comfortable with him taking over the starting role. Just something to think about. Dillon Brooks is extension eligible. Should the Suns give him a 4-year, $125 million extension? Hell no. But it does mean they should keep him around. We'll talk about that next. Today's episode is brought to you by the folks over at 5 Hour Energy. A sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find the perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why the Confetti Craze 5 Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. This is that classic taste you remember, but with a tasty caffeine boost and zero sugar. It's a quick and easy way to satisfy that sweet tooth craving while keeping things simple and on the go. I've always loved birthday cake, but I can't be eating the sweets all the time. So this is perfect. Confetti Craze 5 Hour Energy Shots taste just like birthday cake. Vanilla and buttery flavors to help you be unapologetically extra and unstoppably energized. All cake, no sugar. You can have your cake and sip it too, minus any sugar guilt. I like how convenient it is too. It's just a small portable shot I can grab wherever I need a little pick-me-up. It's become my go-to whenever I want something sweet without going overboard. The Fun Freddy flavor is back on 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Crack open Confetti Craze 5 Hour Energy Shot today. Today's episode is also brought to you by the fine folks over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inboxes overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on, You need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, locations. So you're not just hoping right candidate stumbles across your post. And then here's a stat that says it all. The minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours make 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates. Check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. So you need the right hire to cut through chaos. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show, we get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Also, reminder, we launched our Everydayer Club. What is our Everydayer Club? Well, it's just $5 a month, and you get access to an ad-free audio version of Locked On Phoenix Suns, an invite to the members-only Locked On Suns group chat, exclusive access to national bonus shows, members-only Locked On merch store, and a 60% discount on additional Everydayer membership level subscriptions. You can find that in the show notes if you're listening on audio, if you're interested in that, or on YouTube in the episode description. Okay, so I spent way too much time talking about Mark Williams. I got lost in all of the minutia in Mark Williams, so it might be a little bit of a longer show. But with that being said, we're just going to press on. So here's the interesting thing about Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks was beautiful for the Phoenix Suns this season. You know, you look at all the statistics and all the things that Dillon Brooks was in terms of a contributor to the Phoenix Suns this year. He averaged a career high in points, career high in field goal percentage at 43.5. And yeah, he took a hit in terms of three-point percentage, but still shot pretty effectively from the free throw line. That would be a career high at 84%. Dillon was like, when people talk about, again, this is one of those things where this is where the war starts in Phoenix about who you would select, Dillon Brooks or Jalen Green and Devin Booker, that dynamic, if it works or not. Last week where I talked about all the dynamics with Dillon Brooks, with Jalen Green and some of the advanced analytics that did not go his way, but Dillon Brooks this year, in all possessions, so transition, the half court, the overall half court, these are all possessions. In 579 possessions, he averaged a 1.214 points per possession. That was good for 90 in the 96th percentile. It was good enough for an excellent points per possession ranking in per synergy. He averaged 64% from the field, and an effective field goal percentage of 65%. He averaged 64% on 2-point field goals. Like, he really bridged the gap this year. Now, not entirely, because it's hard to bridge the gap from Kevin Durant, but he really bridged the gap this year in the mid-range game for the Phoenix Suns. Did he take a step back as a defender? Yes. I think Dillon Brooks is going to go back to being a very good, potentially elite level defender next year, where potentially everyone is back in the fold. The Suns have a little bit more health. But when people knock Dillon Brooks as the defender this year, my thing is, yes, in its totality, was Dillon Brooks a great defender for the Phoenix Suns? No. But in spots, when the Suns really needed him, this is where the eye test comes in. I thought Dillon Brooks was really great. But for large portions of the season, he had to do so much offensively to keep them afloat. So people go after his defense. And I'm like, yeah, when you're exhorting so much offensively because Devin Booker isn't there, or Jalen Green isn't there, or Colin Gillespie, or Grayson Allen, Mark Williams, since it's so many injuries this year where Dillon Brooks had to step up offensively for them. If he didn't, yeah, he might be a pretty good defender on the other end. But offensively, they'd lose a bunch of games because they're not scoring. That's where Dillon Brooks, yes, deficiencies defensively, because he was asked to do so much offensively. So I know people go after him for not being a great defender this year, but I think that is ill-timed and unfair. Now, Dillon Brooks is extension eligible on the day after the NBA Finals. He is currently finishing the third year of a 4-year, $86 million extension, which will pay roughly $21 million next year. He can sign for up to 4 years, $125 million. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. I love Dillon Brooks. At 4 years, $86 million. I love him. I adore him. That is elite level contract stuff for the Phoenix Suns. $21 million a year for Dillon Brooks. It's fascinating to me when sometimes people, not everyone, but some people have turned on Dillon Brooks because, I don't know, the Dillon Brooks, Devin Booker, Jalen Green dynamic didn't work this year. And it was like, yeah, there's other reasons why it didn't work, but again, move it to the side for a second. You're paying Dillon Brooks $21 million. That is a bargain in today's NBA. You are about to move into potentially giving Dillon Brooks, and I don't know why I don't have the exact number in front of me, but 125 divided by 4, $31 million a year. Now, I adore Dillon Brooks. I don't adore Dillon Brooks at 4 years, $125 million. That would be silly for the Phoenix Suns to do. Now, if the Suns had all the pieces around for the Phoenix Suns ready to go, and they're about to make an NBA Finals, run, I would give Dillon Brooks 4 years, $125 million, because I just wouldn't want to risk the chance of him going elsewhere. I don't care if the Suns dipped into the second apron, if everything around them was fine. But as currently constructed, I think a fairer contract for Dillon Brooks and what he's done for the Suns would be 4 years, $100 million. If you could get Dillon for $25 million a year, you jump all over that. Because again, if he's a bargain at $21 million, you would be paying Dillon Brooks I want to bring up Dillon Brooks' current contract right now. Dillon Brooks' current contract is, again, 4 years, $86 million. He signed that with Houston Rockets. You would get him 32, 33, 34, 35 season. So the later end of that contract, when he's 35 and making $25 million a year, and again, the way you structure it, maybe he's making a little bit money less later, regardless, that contract becomes then very valuable to move. At 35 years old, he's making $25 million. You can move that contract to bring in a good piece because it's expiring. So I think it's a no-brainer to extend Dillon Brooks. I know that he kind of ruffled some feathers at the end of the year. Not a great defender, but being asked to do so much offensively, I think you just go ahead and pay Dillon Brooks. Plus, I didn't even mention any of this stuff, and it's shame on me because I should have. The culture, remember when he went down with an injury? That's where the Suns took a nosedive offensively and defensively. That's where they really fell off a cliff. That 6 weeks without him. So I think Dillon Brooks was the second most important Sun this year behind Devin Booker. They got to make it happen. They got to figure out that contract, and I believe they will. Lastly, spend a few minutes talking about Zion Williamson to the Phoenix Suns and why I think I've just had enough of former number 1 overall picks not working out. Let's talk about that next. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like playoff basketball live. The intensity, the crowd, the rivalries. It's a completely different experience when you're in the building. The NBA playoffs are where unforgettable moments happen, and being there in person just hits different. Game Time makes it incredibly easy to find tickets, even for those hard-to-get playoff games, in just a few taps. And with the Game Time guarantee, you're getting 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Game Time makes it easy to find great seats in just a couple of minutes. My favorite feature, I really like that you see the price that you pay from the jump. Fees are included, so there are no surprise fees at checkouts. That's just like a layup. I don't know why more other ticketing apps don't do that or don't follow suit with it, because it's so easy. And Game Time's just like, yeah, we're not going to hide the price from you. Here's the price. Price you see is the price you pay. The Seat View feature is a game changer. You can actually see where you're viewing before you buy. I love that. I love buying tickets to a Diamondback game. And I want to make sure views not obstructed by like the foul pole or something. You can see that before you buy the tickets. And the zone deals are great. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. Plus, with the lowest price guaranteed and ticket coverage, you can feel confident every time you're buying tickets. Take the guess where I'm buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Kalshi. The NBA playoffs are here and is the most electric time in basketball. I mean, come on, guys. Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons are about to tip off here just in a second. Both those teams are going to be playing their second Game 7 of the playoffs, the third Game 7 overall in out of those two. So on Kalshi, you can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, and even the NBA finals. Listen, you can go to Kalshi right now, yet tomorrow, or maybe when you're listening to this today. Game 1, San Antonio at Oklahoma City. Woo! You can trade over there and potentially win $148. There's a 68% chance the Oklahoma City Thunder win, a 33% chance the San Antonio Spurs win. I mean, listen, you can trade up to $100, be able to win 148 back. I mean, check this out. The San Antonio Spurs are trading at 33% to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder at 68%. I mean, you could pay out $100 and potentially win, or you could trade $100, potentially win $148 if they win this series. And as the playoffs heat up, those numbers move in real time. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your positions. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI. Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk. It may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Let's spend a couple of minutes talking about Zion Williamson. So one of the reasons why I haven't spent a ton of time talking about Zion or Giannis or Ja Morant, because, and here's something on social media that, again, is the only way I can gauge how Suns fans feel sometimes, but I shouldn't say everyone, I hate when people say that. A lot of people in the Suns verse are looking for the Suns to move players just to move players. I really don't understand it. Like the Giannis thing has never made any sense. That's why I don't talk about it. It's why I keep shutting it down. It's ridiculous. Bobby Marks just did a 10-team article about teams that made sense for the Suns or made sense for Giannis. And guess who wasn't on that article? The Suns. And so I just don't see it happening. I see that there could potentially be a Mark Williams trade, a Grayson Allen trade, things on the margins, bringing someone in as a mid-level exception. But I don't want to gas up players that I know have not a big chance of coming to the Suns. And I think Suns fans, some, are gearing themselves up to be disappointed for when the Suns don't go and get the bigger fish, if you will. So that's why I haven't been spending a ton of time on these. But let's talk about Zion Williamson for a second. So Zion Williamson, out of all the names that have been thrown out there for potentially the Phoenix Suns, is the most intriguing because I don't think Devin Booker has played with someone that has the skill set of a Zion Williamson. Now he averages 21 points a game. He averages 60% from the field, and kind of similar to Mark Williams, when he plays, especially offensively, he is just really, really freaking impactful. Now he is 6'6", 284 pounds. That is crazy for a guy that is 6'6" to almost be weighing 300 pounds, but that is outside of being a offensive lineman, that is just wild to me. But he is, differently proportionate. Dude's got massive legs. He is insanely athletic. But, and so listen, like, people know of my concerns of Jalen Green and the fact that he makes $36 million a year. And to make any trade work, it would probably have to be a Jalen Green for Zion Williamson type of swap. I don't It would be interesting for a couple of reasons. Devin Booker has really never played with a guy like Zion, who I think can live around the rim, make life really frustrating for opposing teams in the painted area. I think there is a version of him where he could be a good defender outside of, last year he played 62 games and had a defensive rating of 120, which is effing terrible. That's so bad, which means, he's kind of a cone defensively. But I would be curious to see him and Devin Booker in pick and roll situations, or where Zion Williamson is catching a lob from him, or just giving someone to handle the ball duties. That's not Devin Booker. Now, is Zion going to be bringing up the court all the time like a point guard? No, but be able to give him the ball and allow him to back down and to create his own shot. That's another thing that Devin Booker really needs to be successful. Another player that can create their own offense. So often people talk about, well, he needs a pass for his point guard. No, he needs someone that can create their own shot. That is what's going to take away pressure off Book. And so for all those reasons, I do kind of like that idea out of all of them. Ja, Zion, AD, who's the other one? Giannis. Out of all those players that feel the most realistic and would cost you the least, and I think that Zion is the most interesting and the most realistic, because it'd probably be a Jalen Green and filler swap for Zion. The problem is the guy just never plays. In 2023, 2024, he did play 70 games, but in his rookie season, he played 24 games. In his sophomore season, he played 61 games. In his third year, he played 29 games. In 2023, 2024, he played 70 games. Last year, he played 30 games. This year, he played 62 games. He is just not reliable enough to be on the court. Not to mention, this is someone who had to have a weight clause in his contract. This is someone who has to make weight every year. If I'm paying you $42 million a year, $44 million the following year, I am not interested in begging you to watch your macros or your calories or how much sugar you're consuming. That's just something that you have because you are so motivated to be great, or you don't have. Some guys, get drunk off success. Other guys let it motivate them to continue to get better. Zion has not evolved as a player in the NBA. He has been great offensively when he plays, but he hasn't added a wrinkle to his game since his time at Duke. Defensively, he's became a worse defender, not better in his time in the NBA. And whenever you have a weight clause in your contract, I'm just out. I'm just out. I don't want to pay you and then question if you care about being on this team, or question if you care about winning NBA championships. It's one thing for me, or for a casual listener to the show, to struggle with their weight. You can go to work and be overweight and sit on a computer, or you can go to work and be overweight and work with my job that you do, or a job I did before. You can't be overweight, massively overweight, and, expect to pass a fitness test with, police officers or whatever. Or in the NBA, you can't be overweight or getting injured oftentimes because people are questioning your eating habits, and then me pay you $44 million. You just can't do that. And so I would I'll take a stance on this. I'm against bringing Zion Williamson here. I'm against it. When he plays, would he be a perfect pair for Devin Booker? Yes. The guy just doesn't play enough. With that being said, hit that like, share, subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Apologies to you guys. I didn't have a show Thursday. That was because my car broke down a week ago, and so I was trying to get a new car. Eventually did finally get a new car. Life is crazy as a dad, but I will make sure to make up that episode to you guys this week, probably on Friday. So hit that like, share, subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. And throw your questions down in the comment section below. Let's start doing some Q&As, some mailbags, if you will. I would love to answer your guys' questions. I will talk for myself, Benjamin Garcia. It's been Locked On Phoenix Suns. And when will I talk to you guys again? Let's talk to you guys again tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow on Monday's edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns. And I will talk to you guys later.